Happy International Women's Day, March 8th today. I took some time this morning to actually look up the history of where this day has come from. And I was intrigued to discover that International Women's Day has been around for a long time and has roots, as is most things that come from the space of being a woman. Has origins in civil rights movements, gathering of women who elected this particular day to progress rights, to reduce suffering, and to make a bold front against oppression. And I was pleasantly surprised to discover that International Women's Day historically has also been declared a public holiday in some countries. And as I started to reflect on it, I started to then recall in my brain a book that my daughter has on, I can't remember its exact title, but The Great Things That Women Do. It's a fantastic book that has beautiful pictures and just has, I think, 1 or 2 pages of the story of people, women who really changed the world. And as I started to think about that, I realized that females have a tendency to feel deeply and believe deeply. And when they get together with other women, they have this phenomenal ability to be resolved to stand against forces coming from an era of deep, deep care and not wanting to see other people suffer. And then as I progressed those thoughts and I thought about coming online, I started to be aware of feeling a little afraid that as a woman, if I came out and said these things in a public space, would other people bring that message down? Would there be males who might hop on and say, not just you women, us too men? And I found this to be an interesting dynamic because I think what has occurred is that maybe in the last week with social media posts going out about International Women's Day, I have seen comments come back basically refuting or debating or wanting to claim equal ground in the recognition that it's not just women who go through certain things. While I understand where that comes from, I don't necessarily agree with the need for that because it actually perpetuates, probably as a woman, what I experience on a regular basis. And I do not doubt that men have similar feelings, particularly when they themselves have been victims of abuse or assault. For women, there tends to be a generational and societal flavor to that. I cannot tell you how many times I will walk past a car park, first making a plan for how I should walk through that car park, thinking about where I should park, thinking about lighting, what it's like to walk down a street and have people call out at you, or to go for a run and have a car drive past you, wind down their window and wolf whistle or hurl some kind of comment, and you stop dead in your tracks because you have to figure out, is it okay to keep going? Or what it's like to think on a regular basis how you're dressed, even though you know that that shouldn't be a thing. But nevertheless, having those thoughts and working out, how am I dressed? Is it going to attract any attention? Or what it's like to be in a crowded bus or train and just have that trickling thought in your head to think, am I actually going to encounter something really horrible today? Or for me, much more lately, because I've been much more visible in social media, having a mini panic when I see messages pop up in my personal message, because I've been solicited so many times, unfortunately I have to say, by men who are asking me inappropriate questions and soliciting somewhat sexual content or dialogue from me. So International Women's Day is probably now synonymously, I see lots of posts about self-care and taking it slow. And I think I just wanted to come online after myself a morning of cooking since early morning and now heading out to do a bunch of things. I think that as a woman, I don't really hold it against anybody. I think it comes from a general desire to care and to tap into how other people feel and need. I think what though tends to be a problem is when we feel invisible and we don't feel seen. When we run ourselves off the ground because we're so desperately needing some love and affection and attention, when we run ourselves to the ground wanting to give and serve others because we don't know if what we've done is enough, and we feel guilt, and if we're really honest, we feel shame because we're comparing ourselves with the person next door or the mythical super woman that we have in our head. And even worse, when other women perpetuate that message, and when we criticize one another, and when we judge one another, and when we make unnecessary, unhelpful comments to one another. Do you know what? How about today we all just press pause on that. How about we just take a day to press pause on that? Why not for International Women's Day? Why don't we surround ourselves with a feeling of security and safety and love? Why don't we surround ourselves with a message that you're doing okay and you're doing the best that you can? And why don't you have a moment today to really tap into that space that cares deeply and loves deeply, and maybe turn the mirror around? Why don't you see yourself? Why don't you accept yourself? Why don't you have a love for yourself? Because you deserve it. Happy International Women's Day.